Hello guys, Nunix here, and welcome to episode 6 of Minecraft Evolution, where I'll be talking about Beta 1.2. I put a lot of research into this episode, so I hope that you enjoy. Beta 1.2 was released on January 13th, 2011. The next day, Beta 1.2_01 was released with a couple bug fixes, and then a week later, Beta 1.2_02, which was the final version of 1.2, was released. And between 1.2 and 1.3, it was a total of 40 days. Before getting into the specific changes of the version, I want to share something that was on Notch's blog. In this post, he discussed the development goals of Mojang as a company for Minecraft. And I quote Notch here saying, "I suggested that we should dedicate 50% of the development time in Minecraft towards adding fun, new stuff. Basically, any developer working on the game, which is just 2 people at the moment, can just come up with something they'd want to add on a day-to-day basis, as long as the rest of the team thinks it's a decent idea." The blog post also mentions that Minecraft was about to hit its 1 millionth sale, and this actually was hit on January 12th, the day before 1.2, by AcronMan1. And he actually posted on Reddit receiving an email personally from Notch talking about him being the 1 millionth customer. And because of it, he got a special cape for his skin. Sadly, AcronMan1's account has since been hacked, at least as of 2017, and there's a video by the Mr. Epic, the YouTuber, where he talks about this account, and he says that it was supposedly sold for $2,000 at some point, and now the account is worth $30,000 to $50,000. Although honestly, I'm not really sure where these numbers are even coming from. Now let's get into actual additions to the game. Speaking of celebrations, there was cake that was added, and the story behind this is that Notch had promised to add cake to the game if Minecraft won IndieDB's Indie of the Year competition. And so that was just a yearly award that was given by this, I think, game company or game journalist sort of website. And sure enough, they won. They won the most innovative category. They won the best single player indie category, and then the indie of the year, which I believe was the major award. Minecraft won the award on December 24th, 2010, which was 2 days after beta 1.1_02. So it was added to the next version. And according to Notch's blog posts, he officially coded it into the game on January 10th. Cake was undoubtedly one of the most unique blocks slash items in the game. It was sort of this hybrid of the two. It was a food item, I guess, that you could place as a block, and to actually get the hearts from it, you had to right click it when it was placed on the ground, and each bite gave you 1.5 hearts, and there were 6 bites total that you could take. Furthermore, it probably also had the most fun recipe in the game that required all of this stuff here, as well as sugar, which was added to the game, and it was just made from sugar canes. And so it required 3 buckets of milk, which you could get by milking a cow, an egg, 2 sugars, and 3 wheat, and you would be able to get a cake. Next, dispensers were added, and I built here a small little hut to show it off. There's a dispenser here with an arrow or a diamond, and it's called the Judgment Machine. And I'll let you figure out what's going to happen here. Okay, so it seems like I got unlucky. However, I do have some luck, which is that arrows for some reason didn't give you knockback. I feel like in future versions they definitely do. So here I survived the lava fall. Let's try again, and hopefully this time I'll get the diamond. Yay. So yeah, dispensers could drop items, and for snowballs, arrows, and eggs, it would actually throw them like projectiles. You can actually see the dispenser before it was actually released in 1.2 very briefly in the mini documentary called The Story of Mojang. In this clip, we see that the dispenser had a slightly different top texture. As you can see in the clip, it was a stone texture, kind of like how furnaces had a stone texture at the top. Now they have this more cobblestone looking top texture, as well as furnaces also switch to having this cobblestone top. In the patch notes, Notch called it a secret useful block. Next, note blocks. So note blocks were a block that could play sounds, as you might guess. And at this point in the game, there were 5 different instruments. There was bass, which you could get by putting wood underneath the note block. Bass drum, by putting cobblestone or stone. Harp, which was basically any other block than the ones mentioned here, including air. Snare, which was from gravel, sand, or soul sand. and click, which was from glass or glowstone. In the game files, there was also the sounds for the instrument pling, which was later used with glowstone instead. So in the future, glowstone will no longer give the click sound. They also added two new types of trees, the spruce and the birch tree, and these were found in the new biome, the taiga, as well as in existing forests intermixed with oak trees. And so because my world, these chunks were generated in previous versions, I had to go out of my way to find new chunks and try to look for these trees. And it actually did not take very long because at this point in the game, there really aren't many biomes. At this point, only new logs were added as well as new leaves, but new wood planks were not added, and you also could not get the saplings for these trees, which means that you really couldn't replant them at all. So how did I get them all the way over here? Well, I just planted oak trees and then I replaced the logs with the birch and spruce logs. So yeah, these are fake trees. Sorry about that. I'll also note that the planks were only added in release 1.2.4, so quite a while in the future, and the saplings were only added in beta 1.5. They've also added charcoal, which you get by smelting wood, and charcoal acts the exact same as coal, and it also has the exact same texture as coal, and it was sort of an alternative for players that in the very beginning, sort of like in your very early game, if you can't find coal, you could just quickly smelt some wood and you get charcoal. It was only in release 1.6 that the texture for charcoal was changed to differentiate itself from the coal texture. Interestingly, on not just Twitter, he mentioned that he wanted to use charcoal as a sort of scribe that you could write messages into stone, but clearly that's never been implemented into the game even up to this point. They also added a new drop for skeletons, bones, which you could turn into bone meal here, and bone meal was used to grow crops as well as saplings instantly. It also allowed you to force the growth of trees that naturally would not grow, such as due to there being blocks surrounding it. Also, you could not yet use bone meal on grass to make sort of a tall grass. This was only added in beta 1.6.6. Bone meal could also be used as a dye for white wool, and I'm going to be talking about that later. But first, I'll talk about Lapis lazuli, which is a new ore added to the game, and the drop that you got was this item right here, which the only purpose was as a blue dye, as well as making these Lapis lazuli blocks, which were kind of cool looking. I think they were one of people's favorite blocks in beta and early Minecraft. Notch also agreed because in the patch notes he called it a secret pretty block. The texture, however, was then changed in release 1.6. Lapis lazuli came from lapis lazuli ore, as you might guess, and it was actually pretty rare. For example, at layers where you normally mine diamonds in, it's going to be rarer than the diamond ore. And in the very first release of beta 1.2, the ore only dropped a single lapis, and a lot of users complained that basically lapis was way too rare and too hard to obtain, and Jeb agreed to this, so he increased the yield of a single ore to 4 to 8 lapis. Lapis also only required a stone pickaxe. But let's get back to talking about lapis as a dye. This version added colored wool back into the game. And the reason that I say back into the game is because in Minecraft Classic and a couple other early versions, there was dyed wool. And then for some reason they removed it, and it was only in beta 1.2 that they added these blocks back and the dyes that could be used to make them. White wool always existed, but not the dyed versions. And you could dye wool by just taking the wool block, the white wool block that is, putting it in a crafting table, and then putting your dye next to it, and you can make your blue wool, for example. However, there's a more efficient way of obtaining this blue wool if you don't want to use that much lapis, and that would be to actually dye a sheep and then hit it such that you get usually more than one drop from hitting the sheep. With the re-addition of this wool, they also slightly changed the textures of them to make them less bright. And related to that, sheep can now also spawn with slight color variations. So not only would you find sheep that have white wool, but they would also have light gray, gray, and black wool. Lapis was just one of 16 dyes total, many of which you could craft from the other dyes by combining them in your crafting table, but a couple new ones made from blocks that already existed in the game or items were included. So, for example, rose red was crafted from roses and dandelion yellow was crafted from dandelions. Cactuses could also be smelted in a furnace to produce cactus green, which was the dye for green wool. There was also the addition of brown wool, which required cocoa beans. But the reality was, Cocoa beans and brown wool were unobtainable in survival beta 1.2 and beta 1.3. It was only in beta 1.4 when they added a legitimate way to get brown wool and cocoa beans. So how did I get it on my world? You guys caught me. I've been cheating this entire time. No, I'm joking. What I did was I used an exploit from infdev that allowed you to change the block states of blocks using flint and steel. And so basically I took this world back to infdev, performed the glitch, and then came back and was able to get the brown wool from that. I made an entire video explaining how this process works. I suggest that you check it out. I think it's a really cool thing. So this brown wool, I'm kind of technically not supposed to have it. I wouldn't consider it cheating because I didn't directly edit my inventory for it, but I definitely used an exploit to be able to get it in survival. For black wools, the dye for it was an ink sac, which came from squid, which was a new mob added to the game. Squids only spawned in water and they were kind of dumb mobs. They could only swim side to side and not up or down, which meant that they would commonly just get stuck at the bottom of the ocean floor. And I believe I can already see there's a squid here. A trick to finding squid more easily is by turning down your render distance, or I guess increasing the fog, and it makes it slightly easier to find squid on the horizon. So as you can see, he's kind of just stuck here at the bottom. That squid's stuck here at the bottom. Oh my gosh, there's actually a lot of squid here. Squids can basically spawn in any water source, which meant my mob traps started getting a lot of squids spawning in them, and often they could avoid the lava and go all the way through my item waterways, so I had to come up with a way to make them die. They also added sandstone, which was crafted from 4 sand, and at this point it actually did not generate naturally. You might know sandstone as appearing below sand in deserts. This is not the case. That was only added in beta 1.3, so you could only get it from crafting. They also added a painting, and I put here added sort of in quotes, and you'll see why. They added the burning skull painting, which you might recognize. Here it is. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? So for some reason, the painting code was added, but the actual painting texture was, I guess, not included or not mapped properly to the game, and so you would just get this placeholder purple texture. From my understanding, in the next version, this will magically switch to an actual burning skull painting. There were also a couple minor naming changes. So for example, reeds were changed to be named sugarcane, workbenches were changed to crafting tables, ink sacs when they were added had a K at the end, but now they don't, as well as cocoa beans originally not having an A at the end of cocoa, but now they do. Another minor change was that now you could see the mob or animal that was inside of a mob spawner. Previously, it was just invisible. And they also increased the durability of tools. So for most tools, they doubled the durability, except for gold. Gold stayed the same, and diamond tools went up by about 50%. And I actually investigated what happens to your existing tools when you go from beta 1.1 to beta 1.2. I made a whole Reddit post about it, but essentially, however much max durability was added to the tool basically got added to all of your tools so that you got extra uses. Gold tools, even though they had very low durability, were now very fast at mining and they were the fastest tool. Spiders could now climb walls, and slime spawning was added back into the game, although it was very rare. And in fact, I've played 30 hours on this world, and I did not find any slime naturally, so I looked online and tried to figure out how it was that slime spawned in this version, and then I tried to force it myself. Posts online seem to suggest that slimes would spawn in slime chunks when the Y level was below 16. So I dug out this giant room in 3 slime chunks that were found in a row here, and I've been waiting for multiple hours at this point, and I've still not seen a single slime spawn, so I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing wrong. Notch also mentions lowering the overall mob spawning rate, although he didn't give specifics. The Minecraft wiki also stated that the probability of getting a seed when it used a hoe on a grass block increased, but I tested this myself and didn't find it at all to be the case. What I think happened was that since hoes also increased their durability, players kind of realized that they were getting more total seeds per hoe and thought that this meant that they could get more seeds per grass block. This was not true. I've changed the wiki article accordingly. Speaking of other reported changes that actually were not true, the wiki used to mention that ore rates increased in this version. However, I tested this myself and didn't find it to be the case, and I made a whole Reddit post about it as well. You can now also take screenshots without also pressing F1, which hid your hotbar. So previously you could only take screenshots by first pressing F1 and then F2, like that. This was no longer the case. You could press F2 whenever you wanted, as well as when you were pressing F3. So you could use it to easily keep track of where your coordinates are, such as if you're caving and you don't want to get lost in case you die. Finally, in the background, Notch was working on a new launcher for the game, which was released a day before beta 1.3, so I'm technically considering it part of this version. And this launcher was used for a fair bit, and it was the launcher that I remember using when I first started getting into Minecraft. Anyways, that was everything that basically was added to beta. I tried to cover everything, and I tried to investigate things further beyond just what was stated on the wiki to try to get you guys the most information possible. While doing this, I realized that the wiki is often wrong about certain things, for example, the ore density or the amount of seeds. So in the future, I plan on not only reading the wiki, but also fact checking it and making sure that the things that it says were added to the game were actually added. Coming up is beta 1.3, which was a very important update as it added beds. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Thank you for all the support that I've been getting on my videos recently, and thank you so much for watching.